Hey there guys, and welcome to this new video. In this video we are going to see how to add some icons and components to our data table. So we are going to add an add icon. That's an icon which later in the future we are going to customize to be able to add new rows to our data table. So in this tutorial we are just going to add the icons, then in the later tutorials we are going to actually implement the functionalities for these different icons. So we'll have an add icon, edit and delete icons, we'll have a search bar, a sorting icon, and some pagination arrows. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the current state of our data table. So this is what our data table currently looks like, and what I want to do is I want to add a last column right at the end of this table, which is going to have an add icon. And also I want each row of data to include an edit icon and a delete icon, such that when those icons are clicked on, we can perform those functionalities on that particular row of data. Also, I want to have a search bar that's above this column. I want to have a column that's a first column above this main column, which is going to contain a search field and a sorting icon. So let's head over to our code and start the implementation of these icons. Now, for the add icon, since I want it to be in our row of fields, I have to include another object in this columns array, which is going to contain that row icon. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste the new object, and there we have it, guys. So we have this new object with a key of add icon and the component being this add student component. So now we have to create this add student component, since that's actually the component which is going to be rendered on our table head row. So somewhere over the columns constant, I'm going to paste this add student component. So it's important that we paste the add student component above its usage, so that we don't occasionally get an error of the component being used without being initialized. So we've got the add student component, and it's just practically span with this icon. So what we have to do is we have to import this icon from, that's the material UI library. So we move over to where we have our import statements, and we're just going to add this import statement. Again, guys, all what I'm pasting is already found in, that's the codes on the GitHub repository, and the link to this repository is going to be left in the description. So you can either go ahead and type the codes, or you can do like me and copy the codes and paste, or yeah. So back to our code. Now we have this icon imported, and yeah, so just like that, we're about to render a custom component. And as I promised you guys before, this is just how you can render a custom component in your code. So anywhere you need the component to be rendered, you can just go ahead and create that component, whatever it is, and you can render it in your code. Here, for example, once we render in our table headers, so it's important that you add it to the columns array, or yeah. But if you wanted to render it, for example, in your CR, you could come here and add a new table data element and just render it here, just like the way these other ones are done. So we're going to go ahead and save and see what we've got in our browser. Okay, so we save, and alright guys, so when we head over to our browser, we can see that new add component over here. For now, it does not do much, but as said in the subsequent tutorial, we are going to see how to implement the add functionality, such that when we click on this component, we can add a new row of data. Now we have this icon over here, but we can see that these lines, that's the styles for these lines, it actually ends halfway, or it does not complete the whole table. And that's because we're actually missing a column. We're missing a column of data here, because as I told you guys, the number of elements in this column array has to be equal to the number of TDs that we've got here. But at the moment, the number of columns, that's the number of elements in this array exceeds the number of TDs, meaning that there's one row or there's one column of data which will not be accounted for. So what we have to do is, if we want to make this, at the moment it does not look bad, but depending, it might look bad sometimes or it might look worse sometimes. So what you have to do is, to balance this up, you have to create a new, or you have to add a new TD for each table row element that you are creating. So if I just go ahead and do this and add an empty TD element and save this up, so you see now it actually completes the whole table, and that's because the number of rows or the number of objects in this array is now actually equal to the number of TDs that we've got here. Right. Well, in this case, we don't actually have much of a problem, because actually we were going to add a new TD or a new data element in our table. And that data element, as we mentioned, is going to contain some icons, and those are going to be the delete and the edit icons. So we want each row of data now to have a delete and edit icon. So we are just going to go ahead and add those two icons in this TD. So I'm just going to paste this, and I'm going to give this TD a class, as this class is going to be used to style the TD in our CSS. So now we're importing these two icons, that's the edit icon and the delete icon, and we're placing them in this TD. But before saving the code, we have to import these icon styles which we are going to use to style the icons. Sorry, we have to write the icon styles, as we have to define the icon styles. So we're just going to do that somewhere outside our data table component, and there we've got the icon styles. So what's left is to import the two icons. Alright, now we've got the two icons imported. So there we go, guys. We can save and preview this in our browser now, and there we've got the edit icon and the delete icon, and the table is starting to look kind of nice. So what's left now is the search field and the sorting icon, then the pagination arrows. So we're going to go ahead and add the search field and the sort icon first. So we're going to head over back to our code, and since we want our search field and our sort icon to be above our current arrow elements, we're going to create a new table role in which we are going to insert that search field and the sort icons. So starting with the search bar or the search field, I'm just going to go ahead and insert the component somewhere over here. So Control V, and we have our search bar component, and it's just an input field with a placeholder of search and a class name to style the search bar, and yeah, an event handler to change the input and actually do stuff with the input. But for now, we don't actually need this event handler, since as we're not dealing with, or we're not implementing the functionality yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this out for now. And we just have our search bar, which is now just an input. So as said before, I'm going to go ahead and create a new T arrow, and in this T arrow, I'm going to render the search bar. So now I'm going to save and preview in the browser. So save, and now I've got this search field over here that's above this other T arrow. So this is the new T arrow that we're from inserting, and this is the previous T arrow. That's what's beneath the new T arrow we're from inserting. So now, as you can see, this T arrow is incomplete, and that's because it's lacking the required number of table data elements. So for the moment, we just have one TD, or we have no TD at all, but well, HTML automatically understands, or should I say JavaScript automatically understands that the element that we're arranging should enter a TD. So for now, we have just one TD, meaning for us to complete this table row element, we have to enter, or we have to insert the appropriate number of TD elements for this T array to be complete. So we're going to head back over to our code and do just that. So I'm going to paste this, and now we have that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 TDs, but we actually need 7 TDs, or 7 table data elements, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. So we need 7 TDs for our T array to be complete. So we'll save this and preview. Now we have a complete T array, and you can see the search bar is placed at the last but one position, and that is because here in our code we placed it at the last but one position. We can change the position of this search bar by putting it here at the first TD. You see it moves up to the first TD, or yeah, so we can practically move the search bar like anyhow we want in our code. And yeah, so that's pretty cool, because we have the luxury of putting our search bar or our elements anyhow we want. So I'm going to take it back and put it at this last but one TD, and that's because on this last TD I want to actually render the sort icon. Now for the sort icon, I'm just going to delete this TD and paste a new TD, and that new TD has this filter button element or filter button component which I want to render, and I gave the TD a text align of left because I want the filter icon to be kind of a bit close to our search bar. So yeah, now what I have to do is I have to write this filter button component. So I'm going to come beneath the search bar and paste our filter button component, and there we've got the filter button component. It's just a span rendering this filter list icon. So we have to import the filter list icon so that we don't. So I'm going to head over to where we've got our imports and import this filter list icon. So now we can save and preview in the browser. Alright, we've got the search bar, and next to it we've got our filter or our sorting icon. So for now our search bar does nothing, but as said, later in the future we're going to implement all these functionalities for all of this. And last but not the least, we need to add our pagination arrows. So let's head over back to our code. And now for our pagination arrows, I want to actually display them as at the bottom of all um, our other table rows. So I want these arrows to always be last on the table. So after all these other rows are being rendered, I want to come under here and paste these lines of code. So what we've just pasted is a new row, meaning that these rows will always be last because they are placed after all these other circling. So after all our other rows are rendered, we have this last pagination arrow rows, and it's simply a TR with some TD elements. Now these TD elements, as seen in the case of the search bar, they are just here to fill space so that they actually occupy all the rest of all the other columns. So I've got 6 of them, and the last TD element, that's the 7th TD element, is where we want to have our pagination arrows, meaning that we want to have the arrows somewhere at the bottom right of our table. So we just have these spans at that last TD. So the first span has this double arrow icon, the next has just a single arrow, and so forth. So we have to import these icons, then we'll save and preview in our browser. So head over to the top of our code and import the 4 icons. Alright, so now to save and preview, so save and there guys, we've got our pagination arrows. So this arrow has to take you to the last page, this one has to hop back to the first page, and this one is to navigate between pages, next and previous. And in the subsequent videos we are going to see how to set that up. So last thing to do, I actually want to style this search bar to look better than this, so I'm just going to go to the GitHub repository and copy the CSS for this branch. So table.css, I'm going to copy all of that, and I'm just going to replace all of that with what's here. So save this, and yeah, now we can see our search bar is looking a lot better. So that's about it for this video guys, and I think in this videos we have seen how to render some custom components. So you can create your own components such as this search field and render them to your table at any position that you like. As seen, you can decide to place the search field here, or you can even place the search field at the bottom with along these icons or these pagination arrows. So everything really depends on you, and I think that's pretty cool because in the other data tables, there are options or props you can pass to have such fields such as the search bar or the sorting icons, but you cannot really like customize them or place them where you want. Like you don't have that much flexibility, but with your own custom data table, yeah, much more flexible with your components, and you can style them how you want with your own CSS, and yeah, it's really cool. So I think in the next video we are going to start implementing the actual functionalities, and the first functionality we are going to implement is the add functionality, such that when this add icon is clicked on, we can actually add a new student record just like in a real data table. So for the last time, to just put together all what we have done in this tutorial, we have seen how to render custom components such as this add icon, which is just a span that we're arranging into our table. So thanks guys for watching, and see you guys in the next video.